I am doing another Cel Shading figure. Today I have X-Men's Morph. So this is an interesting figure because this is the first time we've gotten this particular version of Morph. And I think a lot of people are interested in having him without the cel shading. So we're gonna give that a shot today. So let's get started. So right off the bat, we see that the cel shading is on the arms, both sides, and then we've got it going down the legs a bit, both sides. And what's kind of neat too is that from previous designs, these types of bands were actually just loose plastics that would fall off, but these are now not exactly molded in, but they are in place. And so I think this should actually be very straightforward because unlike the last time, I'm pretty confident that this time that each color that we're seeing, so the yellow here, the blue here, so on and so forth, is actually its actual color and not painted on. So all of this should come off pretty easily and pretty simply. So, and then we also have a pair of hands that don't have any paint that we got to worry about. But we do have this head, and what's interesting about the head is that it's more of like the gone crazy Morph as opposed to the normal looking head that he has, because this one is almost a little bit more accurate to the cartoon compared to this one. So I'm going to see if we can very carefully remove the dark shading around the eyes. So with that said, I did have a commenter say that I should be using Winsor & Newton Brush Cleaner and Restorer. And I'd never heard of this before. And what this is it's for cleaning your brushes, in particular if you're using acrylic paints. And so all of these paints are generally acrylic paints, at least on Marvel Legends figures. I don't know about other figures, but this should be true with these ones. And so I was told that this should be able to remove it without damaging the plastics. So that's why we're gonna give this a shot. And if this doesn't work, then we can go back to the tried and true method of using just straight up acetone. With that said, let's do it. So I've got a disposable plastic bowl, and I'm just gonna pour a little bit into there. Paper towels. I'm going to start with my big brush, and I am going to go ahead and just get started with the feet. All right, check that out. And let's put it in, okay. So check that out. So that's fully removed. That's obviously still painted. That came off great. That came off perfectly. It hasn't left any kind of residue that I can tell. It still feels very smooth. What's also nice is that as I was doing it, I went ahead and didn't worry too much about if this chemical got into here, just because I was told that it shouldn't melt the plastics at all. Because normally I would say, you know, please be a lot more careful and brush down, but I just go ahead and let it get in there, and it's had no problems whatsoever. It's not melted anything so far. So this, I think, might be the winner, and this would be a great way to remove paints. So let's keep going. The other thing that I've noticed is that it doesn't come off nearly as quick as regular acetone does, but it does come off, and that's really the only thing that really matters, especially with acetone being as acidic and destructive as it is. This is fantastic. I will still highly recommend, though, that you're doing the technique that I'm doing now, which is to, as you brush, that you then wipe off into a paper towel, or maybe that you use water to wash it off into before dipping the brush back in to get more. That whole part is done. We're gonna focus, if you can see it, there's some blue here and blue here, and then of course the yellow right there. All right, legs side by side for comparison. All the paint removed from this leg, and all the paint still there on that leg. That's awesome. Okay, let's take care of the belt real quick. You will notice that this blue on the torso is definitely painted on, so that's where I'm definitely going to be careful when I go for the belt. With the belt, we just want to get this darker red off and nothing else. So I did muck up and manage to get a little bit of the black from the X off, but I'm less worried about that than I am of everything else. Obviously be more careful than I have, but since it's black and it's molded as well, so that should be actually be pretty easy to fix. We also clearly need to hit this part of the torso where his pectorals are, but I'm gonna use a Q-tip for that, and I am going to actually go for the arms on the jacket first. Amazing, that looks great. I took very, very low effort. You know, let's go ahead and pop off the jacket, and that should make this a little bit easier, and we don't have to worry as much about messing something up once it's off. Okay, so the jacket just has this brown part left, and that's it. So let's go ahead and tackle that now. There's the jacket without that paint now. And let's take care of the other arm before we look at the chest. Okay, both arms done. And then, I guess I should go and finish up the leg too. Awesome. Okay, so right now we're looking at the torso, and you can see it got a little bit dirty there and here, and that's because I believe that the chemical got onto my fingers and kind of soaked in a little bit, and as I was touching, it kind of got messed up, right? So I would recommend probably using gloves when doing this so that you're not spreading it and you could accidentally mess up more than what you're intending to mess up, or just don't record yourself while doing this because it's kind of hard to do it. My other tip would be to make sure you have a bowl of water with you so that if you do make a mistake and let it fall somewhere and let the chemical fall somewhere that you don't want it to be, you can drop it in the bowl and hopefully catch it before it activates too much. We're using pointed cotton swabs again to get the last bit of what we're trying to get. So let's go ahead and soak this in our chemical and let's go for it. There's one side done. All right, so here's a Morph without any of the cel shading. And here's a complete Morph without the cel shading at all. That looks awesome. This was an amazing idea. This worked pretty much perfectly. I did feel like there may have been a little bit of residue left. But I think what I needed to do was I put it in the water and kind of like washed it off what was there, and then it was fine because it was still starting to feel a little bit sticky at first, but totally good to go now. Let's do the best we can with this head. So here's the head again for reference, and we're going to take another cotton swab. Here's how it looks so far. It does look better, but this is hard to do because of how small the space that you have to get into there. You can see the inside of the eye, I basically can't get into at all with the cotton swab. So I have to find another way to get in there. So I'm just going to try with the brush, and I'm just going to try to be as gentle as I can because I want to avoid the eye as much as possible. I was doing a pretty good job and then accidentally got into the pupil of his eye just a little bit. that's not terrible. I'd say that's actually fairly doable. It just requires a lot of patience. So let's see if I can finish the rest of it. So it took me 3 cotton swabs to do one eye. Here's what I got. Messed up the eyes a little bit. I colored them back in with some gunna markers as best as I could. I think that's actually pretty serviceable, all things considered. Here he is next to his normal, quote-unquote, normal-looking head. Here we are. Morph, Cel shaded. I'm really happy with that, how that came out. I wish I knew then what I know now. Huge shout out to Kit Bash Customs for the advice on using the Winsor & Newton brush cleaner and restorer. This has made a huge difference. If you're interested in doing this, I highly recommend using that. Skip the acetone entirely. It's crazy to use acetone if you have access to this. If you don't have access to this, then wait till you can. Acetone is just, it's too tricky to work with. You might mess up your stuff in a way that you will not be happy with. I'll just switch over to the Cel shaded face as well, so you can get a shot of that. And I think that came out pretty good. I know I did mess up a good amount, but overall, not bad. So I do recommend using this if you're going to do any Cel shading or any other kind of paint removal on Marvel Legends figures. However, if you're dead set on using acetone, then definitely learn from my mistakes and check out my Wolverine video over here.